Hey students, it's me, your teacher Amber, and welcome to your virtual lecture for the subject GE 111, or Understanding the Self. Today we are going to discuss the following topics. So sit tight, relax, and enjoy the learning process. Contents of Unit 1 and Unit 2 are going to be combined. When I say Unit 1 and Unit 2, this is going to be your prelim and your midterms. I just really want you guys to listen to these lectures whenever you're free. Of course, this is going to be a separate video. First is you're going to have the video for Lesson 1, and then you're going to have the video for Lesson 2. So first is the first topic that we're going to be discussing this semester is the self from various philosophical perspectives. So we're going to be talking about the Greek philosophers who influenced, the ideas about the self, the beliefs about why we came to be and stuff like that. And also we're going to be talking about the self, society, and culture in your lesson 2. So when I say lesson 1, this is going to be included in your prelims. When I say lesson 2 or unit 2, this is going to be included in your midterm. So I hope you guys listen very carefully and very well. Okay, so the contents of these units will be included in your exams. So I hope you guys listen very well, and also I hope you guys enjoy too. So let's go to our first topic, the self from various philosophical perspectives. So what is this all about even? The history of philosophy is replete with men and women who inquired into the fundamental nature of the self, along with the question of the primary substratum that defines the multiplicity of things in the world. The inquiry on the self has preoccupied the earliest thinkers in the history of philosophy, the Greeks. Of course, I know some of you have already heard the names of the Greek philosophers we have been talking about these Greeks ever since we were exposed to quotations on Facebook. I know we are in an age where it's all social media and stuff, but some of the things they said a long time ago still applies to us up to this day. So it's really important that we get to understand where they are coming from and what their thoughts about the self are. So the Greeks were the ones who seriously questioned myths and moved away from them in attempting to understand reality and respond to perennial questions of curiosity, including the question of the self. The different perspectives and views on the self can be best seen and understood by revisiting its prime movers and identify the most important conjectures made by philosophers from the ancient times to the contemporary period. So what does this even mean? The Greeks, sila yung mga, because before, di ba, in our early ages, we were sinasamba natin yung mga puno and stuff like that. That's animism. We were all surrounded by myths about this self. But the Greeks were the ones who were let's squash these myths and let's seek the truth. Sila yung mga nag-attempt na una about questioning the idea of our minds and our souls. So it's really important that we get to know them because sila yung prime movers, no? So let's start with the first philosopher. Now I know you've heard this name over and over again, but you really need to get to know him. The first philosopher is Socrates. Now, who is Socrates? He is the founder of Western philosophy. Now, Socrates, the inquiry on the self began with the earliest thinkers in the history of philosophy, and these are the Greeks, as we've mentioned. One of the most famous philosophers of his time is Socrates. For him, the true task of a philosopher is to know one's self. For Socrates, every man is composed of body and soul. This means that every human person is dualistic, that he is composed of two important aspects of his personhood. He said that all individuals have an imperfect, impermanent aspect. When we say imperfect, impermanent, of course, ito yung namamatay, ito yung nagwi-wither, ito yung minsan lang, once lang na andito sa earth, which is the body, while maintaining that there is also a soul that is perfect and permanent. So there is a belief that our soul, after we die, it still goes on. My heart will go on and on. Sabi nga ni Celine Dion. Yan. So, later, Socrates was brought to trial by a group of philosophers for allegedly corrupting the minds of the youth for his impiety or blasphemous acts. He was sentenced to drink hemlock, a poison. Ganito kasi yan. Before Socrates, there were pre-Socratic philosophers. And isa dito sila Thales, sila Pythagoras, sila Parmenides, Heraclitus, and to name a few, of course. Yung concern nila before is more on explaining what the world is really made up of. And then, why the world is so, and then what explains the changes that they observed around them. They are tired of simply conceding to the mythological accounts propounded by poet theologians like Homer and Hesiod. These men endeavored to finally locate an explanation about nature of change, the seeming permanence despite change, and the unity of the world amidst its diversity. Yan. So, sila Homer and Hesiod, I don't know if you're familiar with your literature subjects, but Homer is the writer of the Odyssey and the Iliad. And ito yung mga stories before, the Greek mythological stories, of course, andyan sila Zeus, sila Athena, yung mga Greek gods and goddesses na according to the mythological accounts, sila yung nagpapatakbo ng ating mundo. Sila yung pinagmulan and all. So, napagod na sila about these myths and all. Yun na nga, they have decided to, let's find out the truth, no? Tama na yung mga kwento-kwento. What is the truth about the self? Why are we even here? So, after the series of thinkers from all across the ancient Greek world who were disturbed by the same issue, a man out to question something else. He came out to question something else, This man was, of course, our man, Socrates. Unlike the pre-Socratic, Socrates was more concerned with another subject, the problem of the self. Yan ang pinaka-focus ni Socrates. He was the first philosopher who ever engaged in a systematic questioning about the self. To Socrates, and this has become his lifelong mission, the true task of a philosopher is to know oneself. Because how can you philosophize if you don't know who you are? And sabi nga nila, Socrates, if I'm gonna give you a picture of Socrates on his everyday life, siya yung maglalakad-lakad yan sa street, then makakabangga ka, and magtatanong-tanong na siya ng kung ano-ano tungkol sa iyo. So a lot of people were really not that fond of him kasi nga, kahit naman sa times natin, di ba, pag naka-encounter tayo ng taong parang ang daming tanong, nakakairita, di ba? Pag lalapitan ka lang, tapos tatanungin ka tungkol sa, di ba? Most of us are really shy. We don't really try to discuss about ourselves because sometimes we're not ready for the conversation of opening up who we are. Because sometimes there are things about us that we don't really like thinking about, no? Even I, as your teacher, there are things that I do not like about myself. But then, here's the key to knowing yourself, students. For me, if I didn't experience those bad things, if I didn't see the bad sides of who I am, or the problem about the self, the problem of myself, if I didn't know these things, I don't think I would be in a better place. And right now, salamat sa Diyos, I'm in a better place with my life. I'm very thankful for so many things. And I guess I'm just sharing to you students, no? Do not be afraid of facing the ugly with you, no? Because we're so scared of trying to see, I don't want to look at the bad parts of myself. Gusto ko lang best. Gusto ko lang kung ano yung pinapakita ko sa social media, yun lang ang ako. It's a sad life if you would live like that, no? You really need to have the time to evaluate yourself. That's the thing about Socrates. You have to know how to evaluate yourself. And with evaluation comes knowing na meron palang bad sides sa pagkatao mo. There is the problem of the self. Ito yung pinaka-main mission ni Socrates. So, Move on naman tayo kay Socrates. Punta tayo sa estudyante niya na nagpatuloy sa kanyang ideologies after he was forced to drink hemlock. Okay, so ito ay si Plato, not Plato, bali pinggan. Si Plato is the founder of the Platonist school of thought and the academy, the first institution of higher learning in the Western world. So ito yung picture ni Plato. This is Plato. Okay? So Plato is claimed in his dialogues that Socrates affirmed that the unexamined life is not worth living. No? During his trial for allegedly corrupting the minds of the youth for his impiety, Socrates declared that without regret that his being indicted was brought about by his going around Athens engaging men, young and old, to question their presuppositions about themselves and about the world. Kaya nga, di ba, I told you, like, yung picture ni Socrates, if you were around him on the same age, ganyan siya, lalapit lang siya sa'yo, magtatanong siya ng kung ano-ano. So, particularly about who they are. Di ba, as I've said earlier, palaging tanong ng tanong about tungkol sa sarili mo. Socrates took it upon himself to serve as a gadfly that disturbed Athenian men from their slumber and shook them off in order to search the truth and wisdom. So, kinoconnect ko na si Socrates kay Plato. Plato, Socrates' student, basically took off from his master and supported the idea that man is dual nature of body and soul. Okay? In addition to what Socrates earlier espoused, Plato added that there are three components of the soul: the rational soul, the spirited soul, and the appetitive soul. In his magnum opus, The Republic, Plato emphasizes the justice in the human person can only be attained if the three parts of the soul are working harmoniously with one another. The rational soul, forged by reason and intellect, has to govern the affairs of the human person. The spirited part, which is in charge of emotions, should be kept at bay, and the appetitive soul is in charge of base desires like eating, sleeping, drinking, and having sex are controlled as well. When this ideal state is attained, then the human person's soul becomes just and virtuous. So, let's just explain them further, no? The rational soul or mind, nous, or conscious awareness is the part of us that thinks, analyzes, looks ahead, rationally weighs options, and tries to gauge what is best and true for the human person. Ito yung maingay. Ito yung maingay sa isip natin talaga. Kasi ito yung nagfo-form ng logic. Ito yung part natin na nag-govern ng affairs natin as a person. No? And then, yung spirited soul or the hot-blooded part is in charge of our emotions. The part that gets angry when it perceives, for example, an injustice being done. This is the part of us that loves to face and overcome great challenges. No, ito yung part natin nga, parang minsan super proud, na minsan napaka-OA na, ganyan. Ito yung part na can steel itself to adversity and that it loves victory, winning challenge, and honor. However, it is a part of us na kailangan kontrolin natin. Kasi nga, sometimes when our emotions get the best of us, we make bad decisions, di ba? So, yun na nga. This is the reason why these three are interconnected. Kasi kailangan, they are controlled by each other, kumbaga. Now, the appetitive soul, which includes all our myriad desires for various pleasures like comfort, gusto ko yung unan ko, malambot, ganyan. Physical satisfactions, like, pagkakita natin, ito yung isa sa mga naapektuhan nitong pandemic, yung ating appetitive soul. Because so many things were, let's just say, blocked because we cannot access it due to a virus, no? So, ito yung most na nagsuffer, I think. Because yung physical satisfactions natin, like me, I'm a hugger, I like to hug my friends. Bawal na during the pandemic kasi nga, baka mapasahan ng virus. And bodily ease, yan yung bodily ease. Ayoko na ganyan, damit ko, ayoko masikip masyado, gusto ko free lang, ayoko yung masyadong tight, ganyan. Examples of which are yung appetitive soul natin. Ito yung mga examples ng gustong-gusto niya. Eating, yan. So, sumahilig yung mga foodies dyan, yung appetitive soul nyo, yung malakas. Yung drinking, sleeping, ayan. Sleeping, I need sleep. Yan. And even engaging in sexual pleasures, OMG. Yan yung mga gustong-gusto natin, di ba? Pag-usapan yung appetitive soul natin because it brings us pleasure. It brings us, ito yung, kumbaga, nagsasatisfy, this satisfies our life. Pero again, it's one of our parts of our soul na kailangan in control siya. Because too much is dangerous sometimes, di ba? So Plato, as I've said earlier, Plato emphasizes that justice in a person can only be attained if there are three parts, if these parts are working harmoniously with one another. When this ideal state is attained, the human person's soul becomes just and virtuous. But can I just be honest with everyone? In the pursuit of becoming your self-actualized version of yourself or yung self-resigned version ng sarili nyo, it would be a struggle to control. Mangingibabaw yung isa sa kanila palagi. Minsan, isa sa atin, mas malakas yung appetitive soul. Minsan, yung isa sa atin, pag malakas yung appetitive soul mo, nagsasuffer yung logical self mo, yung natawag natin dito, yung iyong rational self. Pag malakas naman yung rational self mo, minsan nagsasuffer ka, nagiging sad ka kasi minsan tinatanong mo, ay dapat pala ginawa ko na lang yung ganito, ganyan. Dapat nagpasaway na lang ako, ganyan, para mas masaya ako. Yan yung mga things na dumadaan sa isip natin pagka tayo ay hindi nagbabalance nitong ating ng aspects, ng three aspects ng souls natin. So, para mas maging healthy ang life mo, you need to balance these things, no? Nakuha ba, students? Am I still making sense? Okay, let's go to the third philosopher, si Saint Augustine. Ito yung itsura ni Saint Augustine, okay? So, literal siyang saint. Augustine of Hippo, also known as Saint Augustine, was a theologian, philosopher, and the bishop of Hippo Regius in Numidia, Roman North Africa. Okay, so Saint Augustine naman was a theologian and a philosopher who believed that the search for knowledge of soul and self is a search into the mystery of the self who is a soul. Huh? Ano daw? Okay, so he agreed with Plato that man is of bifurcated, divided into two parts, nature. Yan, according to Alata 2018. He saw the human being as a perfect unity of two substances, no? The body and soul, or the soul and body. There is an aspect of man which continuously yearns to be with God, that is our body, which is bound to die on earth, and the soul, which anticipates living eternally in happiness in the kingdom of God or in heaven. For Saint Augustine, the goal of every human person is to attain the communion with bliss, and bliss with the divine by living his life on earth in virtue. Hence, when everything that a person does is in consonance with what God teaches us, when we do good deeds to one another, we expect to be in heaven with the Almighty when we die. Okay, ito yung view ni Saint Augustine. Augustine's view of the human person reflects, no, the entire spirit of the medieval world when it comes to man. So yun nga, medyo makaluma si Saint Augustine. No, following the ancient view of Plato and infusing it with newfound doctrine of Christianity. Yun nga lang, may halong Christianity. Yung logic ni Saint Augustine. Augustine agreed that man is, as I've said, bifurcated nature. So the body is bound to die on earth and the soul is anticipated to live eternally in the realm of spiritual bliss in communion with our Lord in the heaven. Holy be His name. The goal of every human person nga, yun nga. Saint Augustine is basically just trying to tell us na you as a person, i-align mo yung goals mo with God, with the idea na one day makakapiling mo si God because it will make your life easier and it will make your life holier. And this is one practice that I observed with the Mormons, no? Because I got pretty close with, I have a few Mormon friends. I attended their meetings and yung Sunday service nila. One thing that I realized with the Mormons is, yung goal talaga nila sa life, parang, di ba parang napakalinis nila, napaka-perfect, parang wala silang, ito yung mga taong halos walang mali siya sa mundo. And one thing I realized about them is, parang ang ganda ng pattern ng idea nila sa life because in the end, they believe na merong post-mortem gifts from God. No? Merong gifts na marireceive pag namatay ka if you live a good life and if you pattern your life according to His will. Parang ito din yung gustong sabihin ni Saint Augustine. No? You will know yourself. Your soul and your body will become what you want it to be if, there's an if your goal is to seek communion with the divine. So, that's one thing I can share about that, Saint Augustine. This is open to interpretation, of course, students, but this is what I'm reading from the book. Again, yung book na ating discussions is based from the book Understanding the Self, which is by Alata, Serafica, and Pawilen et al. Okay, so let's talk about Saint Thomas Aquinas. He's an influential philosopher, theologian, and jurist in the tradition of scholasticism. He is also known within the latter as the Doctor Angelicus, the Doctor Communis, and the Doctor Universalis. Grabe, triple doctor pala to si St. Thomas Aquinas. Sana all doctor, di ba? Ito yung picture niya. Okay, meron siya. Amazing yung sculpture, di ba? Yung book lumilito. Mukha siyang sword. Oh no, di ba? May meaning na kakaiba. Okay, anyway, let's go to St. Thomas Aquinas. So si St. Thomas Aquinas, the Christian apostle, and the most eminent 13th century scholar and stalwart of the medieval philosophy, added something to the idea of St. Augustine. Adopting some ideas from Aristotle, Aquinas said that indeed man is composed of two parts, matter and form. Matter, or hyle in Greek, refers to the common stuff that makes up everything in the universe. Form, or morphe, in Greek, refers to the essence of a substance or thing. What makes a human person is not a dog or insect, is his soul, his essence. The soul is what gives life to the body. It is what makes us human. That's why yung robots, they can't ever be humans because they are not thinking, they're not irascible souls like we are. You know, wala silang super essence, although they're very useful. Hindi siya kagaya ng tao. What I'm trying to say here is, yun na nga, your bodies are, kumbaga, yung bodies natin, kung wala tayong soul, we're almost like robots. No? Para lang tayong metal, hollow, we can't function unless i-open or i-power on tayo. No? And yung power on natin, yan yung soul natin. We will only function if we have the software inside us. Software, what I'm trying to put into metaphor here is, yun na nga, we're almost like computers, no? But we are very much more than computers because we feel, we think, we have an essence that is different. We have a substance. We are our own persons, no? Each one of us is exactly who we are. And no one can replicate it. Computers can be replicated in a function and, you know, however they served in their software basis. Pero humans cannot be replicated exactly as they are. We can come from one parent, but each one of us, our siblings, magkakaiba tayo, di ba? Even if we came from one. So, that's the idea. Our hyle and morphe makes us who we are. Okay? Let's go to Rene Descartes. Sabi nila Descartes daw. Ma-Descartes si Rene. O talaga ba? Okay, let's find out. Rene Descartes is, ayun na, nagkamali na ako. Descartes, French philosopher, mathematician, and scientist who invented analytic geometry, linking the previously separate fields of geometry and algebra. So, who is Rene Descartes? Is the father of modern philosophy. He conceived of the human person as having a body and a mind. In his famous treatise, The Meditations of First Philosophy, he claims that there is so much that we should doubt. In fact, he says that much of what we think and believe are not infallible, meaning when you say infallible, it is incapable of making mistakes or being wrong, then they may turn out to be false, no? So, pag sinabi mo kasing infallible yung thought mo, ibig sabihin perfect yan. So, that could not be true because there is no such thing as a perfect thought. One should only believe that since which we can pass the test of doubt. If something is so clear and lucid as not to be even doubted, then that is the only time we should actually buy a proposition. So pag malinaw na yung pag malinaw na yung isang bagay, that is when we actually buy the proposition, or when that is where we accept the thought, no? Yan yung sinasabi niya. In the end, Descartes thought that the only thing that one cannot doubt is the existence of the self. For even if one doubts oneself, that only proves that there is a doubting self. A thing that thinks and therefore that cannot be doubted. So thus his famous cogito ergo sum, or I think therefore I am. I think you've heard of this phrase before. Even Billie Eilish used this with her song, no? The fact that one thinks should lead one to conclude without a trace of doubt that he exists. So pag sinabi mong I think therefore I am, and yung ina-explain dito ni Rene Descartes is the fact na nakakapag-isip ka, and the fact that you are even doubting yourself means that you have something to doubt. There is the self that you are doubting, meaning there is a self. Andyan yung self because you're able to doubt it. Yan yung gusto niyang ipaliwanag, no? And that the fact that you are able to doubt this self is a proof that the self exists, no? Yan yung gustong sabihin ni Rene Descartes. Now, let's move on to David Hume. Now, David Hume is a Scottish Enlightenment philosopher, historian, economist, librarian, and essayist, who is best known today for his highly influential system of philosophical empiricism, skepticism, and naturalism. So, ito si David Hume. Yan siya. Okay, so David Hume, as I've said, is a Scottish philosopher, has a very unique way of looking at man. As an empiricist who believes that one can only know what comes from the senses and experiences, Hume argues that the self is nothing like what his predecessors thought of. The self is not an entity over and beyond the physical body. No? One can rightly see here the empiricism that runs through his veins. So, pag sinabi mong the self is not an entity over and beyond the physical body, kung ano lang yung na-perceive mo sa senses mo, there is nothing else about you other than what you have built up through your senses. Kung ano man yung na-gather mo through your senses as to who you are, yun lang yun. Wala na yung mga misteryo sa kanya. That is all that there is to you. No? Empiricism is the school of thought that espouses the idea that knowledge can only be possible if it is sensed and experienced. Men can only attain knowledge by experiencing. For David Hume, if one tries to examine his experiences, he finds that they can all be categorized into two: impressions and ideas. Impressions are basic objects of our experience or sensation. Therefore, they form the core of our thoughts. No? So what David Hume is trying to say here is, let's say, kunwari ako pangit, but I don't know, I'm not aware of that until someone gives me the sensation through my ears. I hear it from someone saying na pangit ako, and I will get the impression na pangit ako because I was told by someone. Therefore, I will build this idea that the self in my head, myself is ugly. Or di kaya pag sinabi na lang na bingi ako, kunwari ako'y bingi, but I'm not aware. I think people are just speaking not too loudly, no? But not realizing na meron na pala akong ear defect. Until a doctor tells me that I am experiencing that, then wala akong idea na bingi ako, 'di ba? Until you are told by someone who is credible about your whatever you are, probably you should not believe it. You should be able to, not all your experiences are valid. You have to question them also. So, however, ito yung gustong iparating ni David Hume, that whatever you have built, whatever idea you have of yourself is based on impressions and ideas, no? That you have gathered through your senses. Ano ba yung senses natin, by the way? I just want to clarify this, no? Because some of you students still use the old term na, yung five senses natin, the sense of sight, the sense of, sense of hearing, sense of, may tawag kasi dyan eh. Pag sinabi mong senses, you're already a college student, so don't use the sense of sight, sense of hearing, sense of smell. You use these words, no? When you say sa sight, you have the sense of vision. Sa hearing naman, audition. Smell is olfaction. Taste is gustation. And then yung touch is tactation. No, you use those words na because you're already college students. Okay? So that's just something I want to share. Let's proceed to Immanuel Kant. Now, Immanuel Kant, ito yung picture niya. Okay, so Immanuel Kant is a German philosopher and one of the central Enlightenment thinkers. So let's see who he is. Thinking of the self as a mere combination of impressions was problematic for Immanuel Kant. Kant recognizes the veracity of Hume's account that everything starts with perception and sensation of impressions. However, Kant thinks that the things that men perceive around them are not just randomly infused into the human person. Without an organizing principle that regulates the relationship of all impressions. Without the self, one cannot organize the different impressions that one gets in relation to his own existence. Kant therefore suggests that this is an actively engaged intelligence in man that synthesizes all knowledge and experience. Thus, the self is not just what gives one his personality. In addition, it is also the seat of knowledge acquisition for all human persons, no? So, yun na nga, sabi ni Kant, hindi lang tayo kung ano yung ating na-experience. He was trying to contradict what Hume was saying, no? There are so many things that defines us. Hindi lang kung ano yung mga naririnig natin or ano yung nas-perceive ng senses natin, what we suggest to ourselves or what we try to pattern ourselves to, but we are more than just these things according to Immanuel Kant. Okay? Okay, so far, if you would summarize all of these teachings by these philosophers, no, what we can get is, first, the human person is divided into two parts, sabi nga nila. We have a mind and a body. Now, yung ating mind and body is interconnected with each other, and this creates who we are. It gives us the function, it gives us the identity that who we are dito sa earth, no? Our self is more than also our mind and body sometimes. This is our personality, this is our, kung ano man yung mga nagather natin sa ating experiences, because the self is a complicated thing, first of all, kasi we are not just limited to what we see in the mirror. We're not just limited to the things that we think about. There are versions of ourselves that people know, and there are versions of ourselves that we only know. And knowing these ideas from these philosophers, no? Like sabi nga ni Socrates, there's a problem of the self. Knowing that will lead you to somewhere, or it will lead you to get to where you want to go. in this process of understanding the self. Kasi dito sa subject natin, students, what I really want to impart with you is I can share this knowledge, but you really have to go the extra mile into discovering yourself. Ang reason lang that we are discussing these philosophers is because we have to get an idea kung kanino ba nanggaling yung ganitong klaseng theory or thought. Okay? So I hope you familiarize these philosophers because they will be included in the exams. Most of your prelim exams will surround with these men. I hope everything is clear. That's it for this lesson. Okay? I hope you learned a lot today. If you have any questions for me, I'll be available on Messenger from Monday to Friday. Okay? From 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. I hope you guys enjoyed our topic for today. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you guys are having a good day. And please check out your Google Classroom for updates and also your GCs. This has been your teacher, Amber. Happy learning, students!